we are the sponsor of this new innovative Women's Network Luncheon. Hopefully we'll be at the Civic Center soon, but today we're here at Zoom. I'd like to welcome our speaker today. Her name is LeeAnna Lavoie, the Director of Community Health of MaineGeneral's Prevention and Healthy Living Department. But before we turn it over to her, just a couple of housekeeping notes from our friends at the Chamber. The Chamber is offering weekly seminars called Chamber Connect that features guest speakers who will discuss topics on which they have subject matters of. It will be held via Zoom, and the first one is on May 20th from 10 to 11 a.m. with the Commissioner Heather Johnson of the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development. The next Business After Hours will be held via Zoom, and that will be on May 27th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. And the next Women's Luncheon will be on June 10th via Zoom again with Tony Pied, Director of Development and Membership from the Friends of Cobbossee Watershed. So to register for all those, I'm sure Katie and her team will send out the link, and then once you register, you'll get the Zoom link similar to today. But let's get started. Today's speaker is LeeAnna Lavoie, the Director of Community Health of MaineGeneral's Prevention and Healthy Living Department. She earned her undergraduate degree in community health and in 2018 her master's in public health from the University of Southern Maine. She has worked in public health for over 15 years, overseeing grant projects, workplace wellness, and other initiatives within the healthcare system. Today, she provides leadership and oversight for the Chronic Disease Prevention and Management Division. So please join me in welcoming her to our Zoom meeting today, and I'll turn it over to you, LeeAnna.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, Katie, and Kayla for coordinating all of this. I'm very excited and honored to be talking. And a few months ago, pre-COVID, I talk about pre-COVID a lot lately. We had good intentions of focusing on being in person and talking about heart health. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint slides, and so let's just bear with me. I feel like I'm maybe somewhat of an expert, but not quite in Zoom. So let's see if I can make this happen. Hold on. Okay. Do you guys see my screen? Yes? Okay. So I have to figure out, like, where do I put you guys and where do I put the chat so I can see the slides. But this presentation, I talked to Katie and Kayla about what should I talk about. Things have changed drastically the last few months. And, we somewhat have a new normal, but not really. So we talked about, what can we do to stay healthy during COVID-19? And probably what I would have talked about around heart health isn't going to drastically change. But I want this session to be about you and your personal health. And as I go through, I'll share some information, but I really want to engage in a discussion about how are you doing? What are you doing to be healthy? I see most of you are working at home. That in itself is a whole new, normal, particularly in Maine. I'm in my office, most of my team's in the office, but we did have some time where we had to work from home, and that was a huge change for some. So we'll talk some about those things, but without further ado, we'll kind of jump right in. Oops, maybe. Okay. So I first want to talk a little bit about MaineGeneral and about my department. Again, what can you do to stay safe? What are the potential health impacts? Just some healthy living discussion, personal goal settings, and then any questions that you might have for me. You probably all know MaineGeneral, but I feel like I should just share. We are the third largest healthcare system in Maine. But we're still considered a small community hospital. We roughly employ about 4,300 people, and our mission is to enhance every day the health of the people in the greater Kennebec Valley area. And we serve about 82 communities in the service area, kind of like the greater Kennebec Valley area, which is all of Kennebec County and some of Somerset County as well. Feel free as I talk to ask questions in the chat, or I may ask you questions and unmute yourself and feel free to share. So a little bit about prevention and healthy living. I think it's important to set the stage so you can think about what types of questions to ask me. But we're a unique department of the healthcare system. And I often talk of our department as the public health arm of the community, although it's not a formal public health entity. But we focus on community and public health issues in 4 areas: chronic disease prevention and self-management, substance use prevention, prenatal and children's health care, and cancer prevention and early detection. Everything that we do in my department, and we employ probably around 35 staff, we are predominantly grant funded. So based on, so this is non-clinical care. This is really, what can we do to help improve the health of the community, and what services and programs can we have for our patients around healthy living, essentially a lot of that. But we're grant funded, and we have 2 endowments that help support our work. So you can kind of just see a little bit more information on this chart. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we're really providing policy and direct service types of programs that are evidence-based to help improve the health of our community. All right, so this next slide, you guys, I have it in here, but I feel kind of silly because everybody knows this. But what can you do to be safe during COVID-19? And, wash your hands often, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. This one here is probably the most important thing you can do at this time, which is probably the hardest thing, in my opinion, to do. I have a very hard time not getting close to people when I talk. I have a very hard time not hugging people, especially obviously my family. I don't hug my coworkers, but practicing social distancing is probably one of the best things that we can do during COVID-19. It's now required everywhere to wear a cloth mask when you go out in public. For me, I often forget to put my mask on when I'm in my office. I don't need to wear it, but then when I go out to the bathroom, I'll walk out and then I'll have to walk back in. But it's just getting used to this new normal of wearing a cloth mask. Cover coughs and sneezes, disinfect frequently any areas that you've touched. So I do have a short video about cloth mask. Raise your hand if you have a cloth mask. Okay, does everyone have a cloth mask? I can't see everybody, but, oh yes, Kayla raised her hand. You can physically raise your hand, or you can raise your hand in the chat. Oops. So I have this short video because just wearing a cloth mask isn't enough. It's really how you use it and how you put it on, how you take it off. And I'm going to escape out of here and go to my YouTube here, so just bear with me. Let me know if you can see, it says CR consumer, okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna play this short video because there's a lot of helpful information that I actually learned that I was doing wrong when I started developing my presentation. So did you learn anything in that video that you didn't already know as I'm getting my PowerPoint back up?
So I have a question that
Yeah.
might be able to help with. We are not laundering ours in the washing machine every time. We've been washing them by hand with like a little tub and some antibacterial soap. Is that not enough, or
I think the biggest recommendation, it needs to be cleaned with heat.
yeah, we've been using hot water and soap.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. You know, I haven't seen anything that said don't do it that way. But the heat kills the bacteria, so I would recommend putting it in the dryer and you know, with heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, Rachel just said it's a good reminder to clean hands before putting the mask on. It's really, you know, before and after. There's another video that I didn't show you, but it showed, I'll grab my mask real quick. But a lot of people, when they have it on, you know, they may put it down here, or they may put it up here, or, you know, they may touch it all the time. But really it should be on or off. It should never be hanging or up here, or, you know, when you handle it, handle the sides and not touching, you know, the front of it with dirty hands. So I think those are just key important things that's easy to, you know, not do. And then it doesn't really help the cause of wearing a mask if we don't wear them properly. Great. Okay. So I'm going to dive into kind of, you know, what are the implications, what are the health impacts with COVID-19? And I would encourage you to either write in the chat or speak up and talk about what we're seeing is, you know, increased isolation, decreased access to healthcare and health in general, increased stress levels, depression. This potentially leads to poor eating habits, inactivity, and all of that can really impact overall health. I'm going to dive into some of these in more detail, but social isolation, I think it's important to understand 1 in 4 adults prior to COVID were feeling isolated. And social isolation is linked to physical, mental health problems, heart disease, diabetes, and anxiety. So I don't know if you guys are hearing of either if it's your parents or any elderly folks in your community that are feeling isolated. Have they talked to you about it? And I'll just kind of open the discussion up to see what folks have been seeing and hearing around isolation during this time. As you think about that, I would also encourage you to reach out to people more, check on people that, you know, in like on where I live, and Mary knows this because Mary and I are pretty much neighbors. You know, I'm on a dead end road and it's all elderly people. And I try to check in, hey, how are you doing? Text message, is there anything I can get you at the grocery store? You know, just checking in within your own community on how people are doing and if there's anything that you could do to help them. Parents that or grandparents are experiencing loneliness, can you use technology to FaceTime or Facebook message with them to somehow keep them connected and talk to them on a regular basis? And then I would just add, if you hear, whether it's yourself or someone you know that has more concerns, that they should call their PCP. They should call their primary care doctor. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. Rachel did mention in the comment that she was able to have a virtual doctor's appointment last week and it went great. So, you know, there are a lot of things that we're trying to gear up as a healthcare system to make sure we're able to meet the needs of the people in our communities. this next slide is on accessing healthcare, which I kind of just mentioned, and Rachel mentioned her experience. You know, this is kind of forcing us as a healthcare system across the U.S. To have more telehealth options, which is a strategy that many healthcare systems were already working on, particularly in Maine, because we recognize that, you know, we're very rural and a lot of people can't get access to care. And we needed to be able to expand our reach pre-COVID-19 with telehealth options. But it's even more now important and is, you know, at the top of everyone's list. But we are seeing, you know, a lot of people are nervous about contacting their primary care doctor. We're acknowledging that people who have chronic conditions are delaying their care, which can oftentimes lead to worsening conditions. So again, you know, if you just so you know, reach out. You know, I could talk about what MaineGeneral is doing, but other healthcare systems are also doing the same thing. They're starting to try to reopen certain things. Obviously, they have to monitor and have to do it safely. But we want patients to reach out to their primary care doctor. It might not be an in-person visit, but it might be a telephonic or a virtual visit. And those are just as important, just to stay connected. Don't wait until it's almost too late. We don't want people to wait until it's too late. Just so you know, from MaineGeneral's perspective, we are reaching out to our patients who we believe could benefit from additional care during this time. But again, encouraging them to reach out to us as well. I did want to share before this webinar, Katie and I were talking about what it's like in the hospital. And I just wanted to share with you, if you haven't been, it is different. Basically, all the doors are locked except for the welcome. And when you come in, you are required to mask. You will be screened. So we have 2 screening questions, which I'll share with you. Do you have any upper respiratory infection symptoms? Fever, cough, sore throat, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell? Have you been in known contact with someone with COVID-19 in the last 14 days? So we ask those 2 questions, and we also take people's temperature. Our healthcare system, and I'm assuming other healthcare systems have also done this, but we've enhanced our cleaning efforts. And again, people must be masked. So I don't know if there's any questions about accessing healthcare. I'll share a couple other things, maybe where my notes are. Oh, right here. So on May 4th, our outpatient practice reopening, and some semi-urgent procedures at ACH and, well, so Alfond Center for Health in Augusta and Thayer Center for Health in Waterville. On May 11th this week, we have opened up semi-urgent surgeries at Thayer. And then on May 26th, we're going to open up semi-urgent surgeries at ACH. Again, we're continually monitoring, you know, the incidence of COVID-19, and that may change, but that's our plan right now. Any questions about accessing healthcare before I kind of move on? Okay. So this next section, you know, there is literature around when we have pandemics and outbreaks, the impact on stress and depression. And so I'm just going to go through some of these and be thinking about, are these things that have happened to you, or you're feeling, or others are feeling? But we have an increased worry and fear about our own health and our loved ones. Changes in our sleep, and if you've had changes in your sleep and eating patterns, that's a clear indication of increased stress. Again, this is kind of similar, but I would focus on the concentration, worsening of chronic health problems, or mental health conditions, increased use of alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. So I just want to take a moment on this slide and kind of self-reflect on how are you doing? I know, and this all kind of came about. The first 2 weeks was, being in healthcare. It was very, very crazy. We didn't know what was happening. We all had to respond. All of our jobs changed in the matter of a night. We all had to kind of jump in and help out in any way that we could. Um, and this created, more stress. I personally, I found I was eating more. I wasn't totally unhealthy stuff, but I was like, I just kept eating and eating. So I, was like, why am I eating more? And I'm over full. I didn't feel good. So these things naturally happen, but I would just encourage you to think about, are there things that have changed since COVID-19 in your personal health? And I'll just pause if people want to share or write in the chat or.
I'm definitely snacking more.
But
also,
at home, right?
Yeah, but I have found we've been eating healthier too, because we're not doing takeout hardly at all. We're cooking every meal, so we're aware of what we're putting into our food, and we've tried to avoid the grocery store as much as possible, and we're using farms instead. And farms have really stepped up to open farm stands or be at the farmers markets, and so that's been a nice change to be eating a lot more locally sourced fresh food.
Yeah,
but still snacking a lot.
Yeah, definitely. There's always the good with the bad, right? And I agree, Madeline. Eating at home or cooking, having meals together has been a positive in my family. I've never done so many dishes in my whole life because I cook all the time now, which is it is health. That is definitely healthier. That's a great. Thank you for sharing. It's a great example. Other thoughts or comments about kind of this change to working remotely, in not being able to socialize? Okay, so you can think, and if something comes up, feel free to add it in the chat. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what are some ways to cope with stress. And I don't know how you're feeling about social media at this time, but I personally have had to take a break because, some people are really angry, regardless of their beliefs and thoughts around how we should deal with this situation. And it's hard to read posts and information that people are sharing that sometimes maybe we don't agree with, or that is maybe incorrect information. But taking a break from the news, social media, and from the negativity is a really good idea, especially if you're feeling like you want to react to something that people are saying, or the news, or whether it's local or national news. But I would just encourage you to take a break from that, and that can kind of help lessen the stress of it. Take care of your body, and I'm going to jump into some of these things in a minute. Such as taking deep breaths, stretching, exercising, trying to get plenty of sleep, avoid alcohol. Make time to unwind. So, I don't know how many of you have children at home, but now being at home all the time and having the kids there, trying to help them do their homework, trying to do your job, it's different. And sometimes that's good and bad, and there might be better days than others. But it's a stressful time for everyone, just in the fact that there's so much change. And then again, connect with your healthcare provider if the stress gets in the way of your everyday life activities. Any questions so far? You guys are really quiet, which is fine, totally fine. Maybe it would be different if we were in person.
Well, LeeAnna, honestly, I can say, this is Mary. the biggest thing through all of this is finding what works for you, whether it's the, Facebook Messenger, whether it's the text message, whether it's the Zoom meeting, whether it's the Teams, whether it's the finding an online book to read. It's finding what works for you, I think, is really important, and that balance and understanding that everybody has a different view and a different way of this whole situation we're in.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree, Mary. Yeah. One of the things that my department, we have programs and services that focus on mindfulness, healthy eating and cooking, and physical movement. Some of you may or may not be aware, but we typically offer classes around these kind of content areas. But I'm going to just talk a little bit about mindfulness. And I don't know if anyone practices meditation or mindfulness, but it can be especially helpful during these times where you can kind of try to focus not on the past and not on the future, but in the moment. So as as your mind wanders to, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to, like it happens to me all the time. Like I've got this long list of things I always have to do, right? So, how can I keep bringing myself back to what am I currently doing? How can I be in the moment, be present, be fully engaged? And also trying to be non-judgmental, so as you're practicing mindfulness, whether it's, you've just got to just take even 2 minutes of some deep breathing, centering yourself, trying to clear your mind. But as all those things pop in your mind, be okay with that, and just try to bring it back to where am I right now? What am I doing? How can I be in the present? This is a movement that has been going on for many, many years, but it's particularly ramped up, I would say, in the past 5 to 10 years, because a lot of what we do, it can't be done fast enough. We've got longer lists to do. We have technology, your phone's constantly beeping, your iWatch is, there's just so much going on in people's lives that we forget to live in the moment. So as soon as my arm buzzes, I'm like, oh, did someone message me? So how do we really try to be in the moment with whatever we're doing? And so that's really what this is about. Not that you have to meditate for 20 minutes every day, although there's huge benefits to that, but that can be hard to do. But even just trying to be mindful of what you're doing right now in the moment. And I'm just going to show a short video. So this is one of our classes. It's called forest bathing, and this is one of our instructors, Ray. And I believe this is at Viles Arboretum, I believe. Anyway, so this class is really about being in nature and hearing, the birds, or learning about the different things in nature that can be healing. And so Ray takes you through this walk, this kind of mindfulness walk through nature, that is really, really healing. But I'll show my next video, so just hold on a second. I'm going to toggle between my, hopefully this works okay. Okay, can you see my screen? It says the value factor. Kayla? Yes? Okay, okay. I don't see everybody, so I'm just going to call people I see on my screen.
It's so easy to go through the hustle and bustle of our days without really noticing the world around us. Our minds replay the past and predict the future, and we lose connection with our present moment experience. Today, I invite you to try the simple visual exercise of being mindful in your present moment. Next time you go for a walk, maybe through the office, maybe out in the city, even around your block, find one thing to really look at. Could be a flower, a building, a picture, whatever it is. Just stop for a few seconds. Notice the shape of the object. Notice the outline that defines it. Notice how there are areas of lightness and of shadow, and how these blend into each other. Notice the texture of the surface. Is it rough or smooth, grainy or polished? Notice the range of colors. And I imagine you were to take a photo of this object. How would you frame it? What angle would you shoot from to capture it best? And now notice how your attention has been focused purely on this one object, this one aspect of the world around you. Start to expand your awareness now. Look around. Notice all the other objects. I hope you find a chance to apply this to your day, to take a few moments to stop and appreciate what is happening right here, right now.
All right. So I encourage you, next time you go outside or go for a walk, I would say maybe drive in your car, just to kind of notice things around you. The flowers, this is a fun time of the year, although the weather's been super cold. But the daffodils and the spring flowers are full in bloom right now, which is great. Okay, rearranging my screen again. And one of the things that I really work hard at kind of personally is, what are the things that I can control versus not control? For example, if I'm in a rush, I'm late for a meeting, and someone's driving slow in front of me, I used to get like angry, like, get out of the way, I gotta go, I'm gonna be late. But when I think about it, at the end of the day, does that matter? And when I used to get stressed out about I would call them the little things, it would just make for bad experiences. So I can imagine how, your stress response in those situations. And then the other thing I think about is, how am I making this other person feel by riding on their butt or, just being mindful of those things, of how our actions can impact others, and that we can't necessarily control the situation, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So I just think about what can you control, what you can't control. Probably what I should have done is left a little earlier, right? So I wasn't running late, but it's not going to change the situation that I was potentially in at that moment. So that's just a little advice personally that I've tried to instill, to not sweat the small stuff. And there's actually a book about that, which is really good. Okay, moving on. So the wonderful thing about being quarantined in Maine is we have a beautiful state with lots of woods, lots of different things to do outside. I don't know about you, but I've been going outside for walks more. I take my son with me. It's a great activity for all of us, and it's just, there's a lot of benefits to being outdoors. So I really encourage you to get out and enjoy the big state of Maine, in areas where there are not other people. Which there's lots of woods in Maine, so I'm sure you can find some trails that don't have anybody. So I encourage you to try to get out there. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this earlier, but healthy eating. A lot of people in stressful situations tend to eat more junk food. There are a lot of people, like Madeline was saying, I am cooking more at home. And with that, I'm eating more healthy. However, I am snacking. That is a common thing that we are hearing. But unhealthy food increases increases your stress reaction. Okay, sorry. So, trying to just continue to eat healthy and be mindful of that. All right, so this is our teaching kitchen. Has anyone ever been to one of our teaching kitchen programs? So at MaineGeneral, we have a beautiful teaching kitchen that we created when we built the new hospital. And since then, we've had thousands of people come through our teaching kitchen where we're teaching them how to cook healthy, affordable, and delicious food. And so you can see in this picture, this is Ben, our instructor, and actually these are some of our medical directors of our primary care practices who are learning how to cut up an onion. And then we made a meal together. Right now our classes are suspended, but we are doing some online videos and we will be doing virtual classes. Just to give you an idea, yesterday, some of my staff were in our own homes. Ben sent us a recipe and we did a virtual class where he was in the kitchen and we actually cooked the food in our home, which was amazing because it's even a more richer experience being in your own home and cooking a meal versus being in a extravagant teaching kitchen. So we will be doing more of these. So as you think about, cooking at home and healthy cooking that tastes good, because there is such a thing, we will be having some virtual classes. But I just want to show you, while we're gearing up for our virtual classes, Ben is doing some videos, some short videos, and we're making a video resource library that can be accessible. So I'm going to toggle over here. How am I doing on time? Well, I'm pulling this up. You can just type in the chat.
Fellow chefs, Ben Ramsell from Professional Healthy Living again. Can we talk about kale for just a minute? Seems to be something that people have sort of a love-hate relationship with, usually one or the other, not both. Kale is one of the most, if not the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, certainly one that we commonly eat. A single cup, one serving of kale, which I have right here in front of me, has more than the entirety of your recommended daily intake of vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin K. It's loaded with antioxidants, it has cancer-fighting properties. It's incredibly good for you, and if you don't like the taste of it raw or alone, it's something really simple that you can throw into soups, sauces. You can cook it into a vegetable mix. You can roast some vegetables in the oven, and then when those vegetables are done and still hot, when you take them out of the oven, you can throw some shredded or chopped kale on top, and just the residual heat and steam that comes off of those roasted vegetables will cook them down into something that looks more like an herb or a garnish, but you're still getting all of that nutrient density just from eating the kale, regardless of what kind of state of cooking has been applied to it. It's also one of the best sources of fiber that we get in our daily diet, which is something that we don't talk nearly enough about, and something that I'll address in a future video. But just know that by eating this, you're keeping your colon and gut health in really, really good shape. So try and sneak a little bit more of it into your daily diet if you can.
Okay. So I just have a couple more minutes, so I won't have time to go through the rest of the slides. But I think that the biggest thing, Sarah just asked, what other recommendation would you have for, Women's Health Month? And I'm on this slide here where it talks about self-reflection. I just think about your current health, similar to what Mary was talking about earlier. What is going to work for you, and are you taking care of your health? And think about what does your best self look like? And then based on what you imagine that being, think about a goal statement, or, develop a statement of what your best self is. And then start to think about what are some weekly goals, small goals that you could do to kind of help achieve your best self. Those are the biggest recommendations that I have. Heart health is really, a lot of heart disease is prevented by lifestyle. And that's related to everything that I just talked about: stress, healthy eating, physical activity, getting enough sleep. Sleep is really important. We don't nearly talk enough about getting enough sleep. So those things really will set yourself up for a healthy heart, for a long time to come, or delay the onset of the disease. So that's kind of my biggest recommendation. And I have more slides here. I've got resources, that you can access. Which I'm just going to get to that slide. I'm skipping. So here's, we have a lot of resources that are available to the community. Like I said, we're creating the video library. We're hoping to eventually have virtual online classes that you can do in the safety of your own home. That's it for my time. Sorry, I thought I'd have forever to talk, but I guess I talk too much. Oh yes, YouTube yoga with Adrian. Very, very good. I have done that.
Well, thank you so much, LeeAnna. A lot of great content and ideas, and I can't wait for Chef Ben's cooking videos. Those seem like they would be a lot of fun.
Yes. Yep.
So I'll be excited to watch those and share those with my friends. But right now, I think Tracy Farrell's going to speak if she's on the line from KSB.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, LeeAnna, for your presentation. It's a perfect time to talk about this stuff. I personally had to go to the grocery store this morning, and I was so stressed by the time I got home. So I feel it's nice to hear everybody feeling the same way, and you're right, everybody deals with it differently, and some days it's not so bad, and some days it is. But anyways, I wanted to just say that Kennebec Savings, for the month of April and May, they created a KSB Eats Local program, which they had provided all of us employees $50 a week to spend at local restaurants for takeout service. Being one of the hardest hit industries, the restaurant business, they thought that it would be great to support the local economy, and they wanted to show us employees how much they appreciate our work. As essential employees, most of us are working remotely, so kudos to the way that our IT guys have handled all of us in our own homes. It's nice to have a personal IT guy to be able to fix your computer when you're at home. But we, Kennebec Savings, wanted to give away a $100 gift card to Kushnock Brewing and a $100 gift card to Red Barn to one lucky person today, so that they can join in the initiative of giving back and supporting the local economy and restaurants.
Awesome, thank you. That's very generous of KSB, and hopefully I win those cards. Sorry, other ladies on the call. But that wraps up our first Zoom Women's Network meeting, and I believe Katie and her team will be sending out a survey after, and that's how you will enter into the raffle. And then we look forward to our next one on June 10th, and more information will be come out soon from the chamber on that as well. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great afternoon, and let's get outside before it gets cold again. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.